Hello everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie K. Campbell. I make videos about a lot of stuff. Each one a pivotal piece of the puzzle in my quest to create educational and hopefully entertaining content, as well as live co-working spaces for my fellow ADHD/neurodivergent baddies. Let me get my mic. Mike? Who's he? It's a wand. Anyway, if you want inconsistently posted content about ADHD and sometimes sobriety and sometimes being gay or all of the above every whenever, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. In today's video, and please no comments or questions about, I don't know how good the settings are on my camera right now, but if you can see how dry my skin is, apparently when you turn 30, your skin, you just become a lizard person. The winter hits and you have scales instead of human flesh. So we're not gonna talk about that. It's for another video for another channel. Now that that's out of the way. Today's video, I'm gonna talk about ADHD and mindfulness, specifically my 5 tips for ADHD and mindfulness. It does kind of seem like an oxymoron, right? But to be frank, mindfulness doesn't really come easy to anyone, as far as I know. However, ADHD, as per usual, complicates matters even further. It's totally possible to practice mindfulness as someone with ADHD. We have minds, actually, it could be super helpful for existing. I know from experience. Somebody pointed out my tongue clicking the other day. Now I can't unhear it. If you're really rolling your eyes at this because it reeks of dopamine deficiency, bring your eyes back front and center. Come on. I'm gonna make this topic fun, or at least engaging. That's the last thing I do. Here we go. 5 tips for ADHD and mindfulness and why you should even give a shit. Tip number 1 for ADHD and mindfulness. Pivot mindfulness to noticing. You gotta be open-minded, y'all. Noticing. If the word mindfulness sounds overly formal or even like intimidating or, dare I say it, boring, I feel you. So if like right off the bat, you're just like, nah, you're done. You're done. I'm not doing this. Consider instead the idea of noticing, okay? Entry point is a little bit easier there. And really what mindfulness is noticing. And now you might be thinking, bitch, I have ADHD. I notice everything, even the things that I don't want to notice, especially the things that I'm trying not to notice, like the clicking that's coming from over there. Is it plant? Plants don't click. First of all, I really don't like your tone. Second of all, let's work with that. Pretty much the fundamental thing about mindfulness is noticing. Noticing what, you ask? Noticing that you're being mindless. Noticing that you're experiencing something. Noticing that you are engaging in a particular behavior. Examples are endless. If mindfulness seems kind of woo to you, just start getting into the habit of noticing what the is going on up here, especially as it relates to the way that your ADHD presents itself. So an example of this might be at one point, literally one point throughout the day, you notice that your monkey mind is monkeying. And you say, hey, I'm noticing that I'm experiencing a lot of restless mental energy right now. Boom, you just noticed it. You just practiced mindfulness. That's f***ing it. It might seem rudimentary or like, okay, but over time, it's a game changer. And I'll get into a little bit more about why later on. Tip number 2 for ADHD and mindfulness, keep in mind the motivation that by practicing mindfulness, your symptoms might get easier to deal with. Probably the most defining characteristic of ADHD, or at least like my ADHD, is just the severity of the symptoms, the severity of overwhelm, the frequency of my executive dysfunction. I can't think of anything that is more motivating for me than, hey, you might have to deal with these shitty symptoms a little bit less often. Who the f is in the hallway being that loud? It's like they have no respect. No respect. Even if you're still caught up with mindfulness seems boring. It seems like something I don't want to get into. Okay, cool. But if you do try, it will be worth your while. For example, mindfulness over time helps us slow down. Most people with ADHD, me certainly included, have the tendency to just bounce back and forth mentally or physically even, but mostly mentally. That is where mindfulness comes in. Gets us into the habit of consciously slowing down so that we can check what is going on, so that we can notice what the is going on and then take appropriate action, hopefully, as a result. Mentally, I never slow down. Physically, I can be laying in my bed playing video games for 6 hours straight because I'm so overwhelmed at the mental gymnastics that I've been doing since I opened my eyes. But mindfulness has helped me to actually slow down and then be present enough in the moment, no matter what it is I'm doing, to be able to say, right now, I am going on hour 4 of Zelda, literally just harvesting mushrooms at this point. I should get up, I should start my day. I'm I'm experiencing fear of getting started right now. Noticing it and naming it is huge, but you can't do that, or it's very difficult to do that if you can't slow down enough to even get there. Mindfulness will help with that. These first two tips, again, still not motivating enough for you to give this a shot. Perhaps you'll believe the nerds, the 2014 nerds that published an article in PubMed where they examined the effectiveness of mindfulness on adults with ADHD. Basically, mitigated almost every single common symptom of the condition. In fact, it turned out to be almost as effective as medication. Y'all, it's worth trying. Number 3 tip for ADHD and mindfulness. Flexibility is huge, and I'm not talking yoga flexibility, although kind of related. Flexibility when thinking about mindfulness and ADHD is really, really important. For example, I set an intention to do like a formal sit-down meditation every morning as a part of my morning routine. Mind you, I started the first week at 3 minutes, the second week at 4 minutes, and the third week, which was last week, at 5 minutes. Turns out that 5 minutes is my fucking limit. So this morning, about 30 seconds into my 5-minute mindfulness session, struggling beyond belief, I allowed myself to get out of that and instead engage in an activity mindfully. What the is the difference here? The difference is, instead of being rigid about, you said you would do 5 minutes of meditation, blah, 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 I was flexible and I said, this might not be working for you at this time. So what I ended up doing instead, filing these bad boys. Any activity that can be done mindlessly, like filing your nails, can also be done mindfully. That was my meditation this morning. It's something that I've been meaning to do for like three weeks, more like 3 fucking months. Giving myself just that little bit of time to really just focus on the shape, the sounds, using the different tools for literally like 4 minutes was as effective for me as 5 minutes of sitting and focusing on my inhale and my exhale. Be flexible. If you realize that something isn't working for you, you can pivot and do an activity mindfully, or just try to be mindful for a shorter amount of time. There is no one way. Allowing myself to be flexible enough to mindfully file my nails or whatever it might be, instead of having this like death grip on the idea of only doing a breathing meditation, that was a win for me. My battery's about to die. Let me switch out. Apparently this battery is dying too, so I'm noticing frustration. Okay, where was I? ADHD and mindfulness tip number 4. Like most things with ADHD, you might have to do some hacks around it to make it stick, especially if it's not like a huge dopamine release for you, which probably isn't. I'm gonna be real with you. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know how much I encourage the concept of gamification, making things that are really a struggle for you to do or accomplish into reward gaining activities, even if they aren't naturally that way, such as mindfulness. You're gonna be rewarding yourself for successfully completing something that you perhaps struggle with. You get more used to doing it because you know you get a reward. How can you reward yourself for practicing mindfulness, whether it's formal or informal? For me, the best way to do this has been writing down or actually typing into my phone in a little note the day, the time that I noticed myself being mindful. Monday at 2:32 p.m. and I'm washing the dishes. In my head, I am having an absolute neurotic breakdown about something that I have to do tomorrow. However, I notice that I'm having this neurotic breakdown. So what I do is say, nice job, Allie. And I write neuroses, and I noticed it. So at the end of the week or at the end of the day, whatever, you get to look into this note and say, I don't even remember what I was saying. Where did I leave off? Yes, letting myself know, hey, you did that. It's really just a matter of jotting down the little wins to acknowledge that it happened so that it becomes more like real in a sense. ADHD and mindfulness tip number 5. And I cannot stress this one enough. It's a perfect segue from the last one. Start journaling. Start journaling, y'all. Absolutely transformative this practice has been for me, not only as someone with ADHD, although yes, as someone with ADHD, but just as a human being. It has enhanced my recovery, my mental health, my self-development, my relationships, every area of my life. Journaling isn't for everyone, I will say that. It's especially useful for me as a reflector in human design and a bunch of other reasons. I have a lot of air signs in my chart, so I'm very cerebral. There are benefits to it, whether or not it's as natural for you as it is for me. Specifically, the way that the ADHD mind is constantly racing. I mean, for me, it's as soon as I open my eyes in the morning, it's like thoughts, 13,000 of them. So I journal first thing in the morning, even just for a few minutes. I get out whatever I need to get out or just whatever comes out. It takes some of those mind racing things that might have hijacked me throughout the rest of the day and gets them down into paper. And it is a mindfulness practice because when you're writing, you are in it. You are doing just that. If you're the type of person to get caught up with like, well, how do I start this new habit? What should I do? Should I go buy a new journal? Blah, blah, blah. Literally, fine, go get a journal. I'll link a cute one in the description of this video. I'll make sure it's cheap and I'll get it myself because I actually need a new one. If If you're someone who needs more direction, prefers prompts, you can do what I do, which is I free write in the beginning and then I pull some tarot cards and write on what message they're going to hold for me for the day ahead. But it doesn't have to be tarot. You can use oracle cards, you can use fucking colors. You can literally, I think there's a site where you can just put like generate journal prompt and then just write on whatever it is. Tarot is a part of my spiritual practice, so that's why it works well with me for journaling. Whatever works for you, whatever you're into, make it your own. This practice has actually become so effective for me that I'm now at a point where it is truly habitual. And that is the key, right? For anything that we're trying to change about ourselves or our behavior, whether it's ADHD related or not. Doing something that we want to create a habit for long enough while it isn't a habit until it becomes one. The first 3 days of journaling, 3 days in a row, day 4, you're gonna say, I don't wanna do it, but you do it anyway. Day 5, I don't wanna do it, but you do it anyway. Day 6, I don't wanna do it, but you do it anyway. Maybe you only do it for a minute. You still did it. I've done that for so long now that I do not have the mental gymnastics that I would normally go through of, should I sit down and journal? Should I sit down and do tarot? No, it is habitual, so it requires less energy. When we have habits, they require less energy because they're automatic. As people with ADHD, we could use all the energy, productive energy that we can get, rather than our typical frantic energy. I look forward to doing this every morning. That's not how it began. I'd say this is probably the most important tip, aside from being open-minded enough to actually try making this something that you want to do. All right, y'all, those are my 5 tips for ADHD and mindfulness, and that of course it is possible for us to practice mindfulness. We just gotta figure out a way that works for us and then stick at it. It can be super helpful for our overall lives, and if you're a nerd and you like research like me, I did link a couple of studies in the description of this video so you can kind of dive into that if you'd like to, including the one that I mentioned earlier. So have you attempted mindfulness as someone with ADHD? What has your experience been if you have? If you haven't, what's stopping you? Either way, I wanna know what it's been like for you. If you're into the idea, if it's something you've never heard of, leave me a comment about your experience with mindfulness, meditation as somebody with ADHD. This is where I leave you guys. It has been real, it has been fun, and it has been real fun. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to this channel, and I'll see y'all next time.